We do work closely with Homeboy Industries. You may know them. They're the largest gang intervention program in the United States, based in downtown LA. And they have their own charter school. And they bring their students to USC so that, we arrange people at USC who have backgrounds like theirs, who have made it academically or athletically, to come in and talk to them and inspire them to think about how they can achieve their dreams, how they can live to their potential. And sometimes having that kind of experience is helpful or inspirational for students who are on that track. Hearing someone else who had a similar background, I think, provides a path for them. You know, when we had John Paul DeJoria 2 nights ago, he grew up homeless in Boyle Heights, and now he's, you know, a billionaire philanthropist. Listening to that kind of story, if someone is homeless in Boyle Heights, is incredibly inspiring. It shows that there's a path. They know there's paths for rich folks, but they don't see a path perhaps for themselves. So connecting them with mentors and other folks who have pioneered a path that is helpful for them, I think can be one way to start. So I would invite you and your students to USC, and we can continue this conversation afterwards and figure out how that would. Well, you know, we have 35,000 students, so I can really only engage with so many. And I found, this is only my 4th semester, so I'm still kind of getting into the job, but you're absolutely right. But you know, at every university or any demographic, you're going to find that kind of issue. Like I said, it has changed considerably, probably from an earlier era. But what I do is I engage with the students who are, you know, want to engage, and I find so many of them that that's really kept me busy. As for the students who don't, you know, what I do is I oversee religious life. So I'm essentially the university chaplain at USC. So I'm more on the student services side, not on the religious studies side. So I don't teach as much, but I do programming and support students and do ceremonial events around campus. What I've done that I think has helped me engage with a larger group of students as opposed to just religious students is, even though I'm the Office of Religious Life, I've oriented the office away from God and towards meaning and purpose and identity. That way we can talk to 35,000 students and have relevant programming for them, as opposed to just those who self-identify as religious. So I think that when we open up the conversation to these broader themes of meaning and purpose, all students are struggling with meaning and purpose. It doesn't matter if you're a 1st-generation college student, it doesn't matter if you're a 10th-generation Trojan, you're still struggling with how do you find meaning and purpose in your life. And once you have that kind of conversation, I think you have opportunities for engagement down the road. But if the conversation is narrowly tailored at the beginning, you'll never bring those folks into a conversation to begin with. You know, first of all, older generations are always telling that to younger generations, so I wouldn't take it too seriously. You'll be telling that probably to the next generation. I think that the biggest challenge for millennials that I've met is, you know, millennials grew up, their parents were baby boomers, so they grew up, you know, we call them helicopter parents, right? They're always hovering above their children, and they grew up with a lot of positive reinforcement. Millennials were the generation that got a trophy just for being on the team, not necessarily for winning, right? And so millennials have a sense of expectation and entitlement, I find, just because of the way they were raised. I think the challenge for millennials is going to be the work ethic, to work really hard and to realize that you have those opportunities, but they're not just going to come to you. You got to work hard, hard, hard. You know, success is luck, success is based on a number of things, but there is no success without hard work. So millennials who have traditionally had everything given to them or have been told how great they are, at some point are going to have to go out and earn that for themselves. And I think that could be something that's a challenge for some millennials. The other thing is technology. Technology is a great way to level the world and connect people, but can also be a distraction. And we were talking about this earlier. Sometimes it's easier for millennials to text one another than to talk to one another. You know, millennials may have 500 friends on Facebook, but not any real friends in life. So what I want to see millennials do is to use technology as a means to an end, but not the end. I don't want to see technology replace interpersonal relationships, because that will get millennials, they won't be as grounded in who they are. They won't be as grounded in life if that's the case. So how do you use technology as a tool, but not be used by technology? And I think that around the areas of interpersonal relationships, that's going to be a challenge for millennials, because they have access to information and technology that no generation ever has. And it's happened very quick. So in a way, they're a test case. Will they be able to stay grounded and communicate with each other and be able to connect from the heart, despite the fact that their main method of communication now is not with their voice, but with their thumbs, right? So I think that's going to be a challenge for millennials too. I think it's a systemic and institutional problem, as you've so rightfully articulated. I don't know, there is no quick fix, obviously. It's the changing of a culture. Maybe it will take the changing of a guard, perhaps the retirement of one generation and the sort of advent of another. There is a new movement called spirituality in the workplace, which tries to connect people in the workplace with meaning and purpose, tries to re-energize and revitalize the work they do and make it meaningful for them. It sounds like the people you're talking about have lost meaning from their work and are just running on fumes. So you're right, there needs to be some kind of counselor training, there needs to be some kind of counselor accountability, the same thing with teachers. Parents need to be involved. The reality is no one is successful on their own, no one. There is no solitary success story. What you did for your nephew was extraordinary, and I can assure you that that's the reason why your nephew is going to be a successful college student and go on to live his dreams. When I was 5 years old, my parents took me to Harvard and said, "You're coming here," and I went there. So I think that you really need to have that kind of support at a high level. A lot of people don't have that support. If they can make it past those barriers with other types of support, maybe it's more meaningful, maybe they'll go further because they've had more obstacles. But it's not right for us to think that our students are going to succeed on their own without any help or support. And what you're suggesting is it's not just that they don't have help and support, it's actually they have discouragement, and instead of being neutral at worst, it's actually negative. And that just has to change. I think it might be interesting if we could either create or find studies that show which students from which schools in similarly situated neighborhoods do better, and look at the counselors at those schools and see what kind of messages they're giving. Because if we can develop some kind of metric, some kind of definable outcome, or some kind of scholarly research that points between the connection of what counselors say and what students do, then we can start driving policy change on an institutional level. Great question. You're right, we were founded as a Methodist university, but as our president said, we were founded as a Methodist university by a Protestant, a Catholic, and a Jew. So even if from our inception, we were pretty multi-faith. Our original mascot was the Fighting Methodists, Trojans sound better, but in the, I think, 40s or 50s, we became a non-denominational university. So we're no longer a Methodist university, we're non-denominational, and then we developed the mascot of the Trojan. What's unique about USC is it's the only school in its tier that doesn't have its own university chapel. The church on our campus was developed decades before, and was a few blocks away from USC. And over time, USC has grown and enveloped the church. So now it's on USC's campus, but legally it's not a part of USC.